Welcome to an early version of the show today. It's Stan Morris along with you as we're letting you know, first and foremost, we're watching for severe weather possibilities this week, folks. We do have the chance for some severe weather to roll in on Friday. We're going to be watching on that stuff very closely. We're going to be talking about that in the broadcast next. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about live, and we're going to try to catch the White House press briefing because there is some serious stuff going on nationwide right now that deserves all of our attention. It's 1:30 in Jonesboro. Let's begin this. First up tonight, we're going to be talking about the opioid lawsuit stuff. It actually had a resolution take place, and it's not one that was in the hopes for Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. In fact, short of a funny spelling error there that we're going to correct, it's a bad news day for Leslie Rutledge today. It was late Friday. We found out that the state Supreme Court had dismissed her request for the lawsuit by Scott Ellington, for that matter, to be dismissed in essence. She has said in a statement she's not going to pursue this further. In fact, she said, let's go back on the dates on this for a second because I want to show y'all something that she said in her statement that I found interesting. On January 24th, she announced that she will mount an investigation into prescription opioids that could last several months to several years. But in her statement, she said the Attorney General has spent months working on this issue. Well, this was 2 months ago the statement came out. She said she's going to continue to pursue her claim, but she's not going to do her best to get Scott Ellington to drop his. She announced she would mount that investigation, by the way, on January 24th. Scott Ellington sent us a quote on Thursday. He said he had been contacted by a number of city officials and city mayors and county officials saying that they appreciated what he was doing and trying to preserve their interest, preserve their cause, and he said he is planning on doing that. But he, of course, did offer Attorney General Rutledge the option to join into his suit, just as long as he said she didn't, I think this is a quote, cut the knees out from under it. All right. Another update to tell you about tonight at the Craighead County Quorum Court meeting. An update is planned on the absent District 1 JP, Ken Stacks. Stacks has been absent. He's been MIA for a bit now, and the Sun reported he hasn't attended a meeting in 9 months due to illness. I don't have that exact reasoning as far as the confirmation goes because I haven't been able to get in touch with him. Stacks draws insurance, but he has not been paid since he's been missing these meetings. JP Terry Couch proposed excusing his absences because of his years of service. We're going to be following that one very closely to find out exactly what happens next in JP Ken Stacks, in the story involving that. Highway 141 in Jonesboro and lane closures this week and for the next 3. As a matter of fact, just get ready for that if you're driving in and about and around in Jonesboro. You got lane closures that are going to be taking place, and that includes the Main Street Railroad overpass and the Lost Creek Bridge. Daily lane closures from Cade Avenue to Woodrow Street that all began today. It's not just that, but also some resurfacing work that's going to be taking place on those roadways and around the bridges in particular as well. So if you're using those bridges, folks, just wanting to let you know all this stuff because we want you to be safe and make sure that you're driving safely and accordingly. All right, so something to tell you about that's happening for our friends in Greene County and Paragould this week. It's from 9 a.m. to noon at the Goodwill Career Center, 2808 West Kings Highway. Our friends at Pico Foods want to let you know that they want to give you a job. They want to pay you to come work for them, right? And so you can do that if you, you get over there on Thursday from 9 to noon. Bring your resume, bring your good side and your smile and all that kind of stuff and have fun. But most importantly, find yourself a career with our friends at Pico Foods. Another event on the community calendar to tell you about: the Armed Services Blood Drive is going on next week, actually. Let me check my calendar. Is that next week or the week that follows? Boom. It's next week. It's next Tuesday and Wednesday. Thank you, calendar. Wasn't that cool if that popped up on the screen like that? I didn't intend for that to happen. That was an accidental bonus that I just gave away by not selling it coolly. But anyway, it's this is a cool event to tell you about. It's presented by the Jonesboro E911 and City of Jonesboro. They're all involved in this. It's April 17th and 18th, 8 a.m. to 5. Donate blood, right? It is a wonderful way for you to give back to your community. And you can do that. That's the poster there. There's more info at neareport.com and on the community page. You can actually find an event for this too. Tabletop games are always my favorite, and on April 28th, it's International Tabletop Day, and NEA Gamers Guild will hold a board game day at the Craighead County Jonesboro Public Library. That's April 28th, 10 a.m. to 5. It's in the round room. It's free. It's fun. It's going to be for all ages, but children 12 and under need to have mom or dad or an adult with them or somebody. Grandpa or grandma, that would be fun. Bring your own board games, too. Other modern games will be there, but if I show up, you can expect to completely lose at Monopoly. Nobody beats me. It'll never happen. Okay, it might happen. Folks, we want to tell you about the weather. So let's do that right now, shall we? Time for your New Wave Wireless weather forecast. $49 iPhone screen repair. You can find that from New Wave Wireless, and we are watching for a potential thunderstorm activity set to come in on Friday. Let's tell you about that. First of all, I'm going to get there, and I want to start with tonight and what we're going to see this afternoon, this evening. 39-degree low and mostly cloudy skies. Patchy frost after 1 a.m. I'm sorry. Let me not jump ahead a day, right? Tuesday, mostly sunny, the high near 57. Then a patchy frost after 1 a.m. There we go. Mostly clear tomorrow night, the low 36, and frost on Wednesday too, but sunny and a high near 68 once we finally get going. Going to feel great with mostly sunny skies all week long until we get to Friday. In fact, Thursday is going to be a go-to-the-park day if I've ever seen one. With the wind gust 25 miles per hour, that's going to be the only negative to Thursday. Friday, though, that's when the thunderstorms are likely. As a matter of fact, we showed you the graphic earlier as we started the show. We'll show you that now. The National Weather Service is giving us a heads up that we need to be prepared for what could be some severe possibilities on Friday. We don't know that it's going to happen for sure, and we don't know the exact timing or location just yet. We're going to get there as we move closer. But what we do know is if it breaks out, NEA report will break in. That's our promise to you. You'll have severe weather coverage on your phone, wherever you're going. At the bare minimum, we want to make sure that we keep everybody up to date. So we will be watching for next Friday and for what comes about then. But right now, as far as the radar goes, it's pretty clear. We're seeing some stuff over in Oklahoma. And, if that ever makes it here, I don't know. It beats me. What do I look like, a fortune teller? Oh, wait, no, that's my job. If it does come over here, of course, we will be watching that stuff, too. But that may be the stuff that you're looking at there. You may end up getting that stuff on Friday. That's the best chance that you have. You're not going to see any of that. Until then, it's going to be a nice week, actually, in Jonesboro. And then the breezy stuff, with that kind of taken aside. Right now, 54 degrees, fair skies in Jonesboro, 55% humidity outside. And I've been hearing a lot of lawnmowers going around today because, there's probably been some soggy yards across NEA. We're going to be carrying the White House press briefing live once that gets underway. That could be momentarily. The reason that I wanted to cover that in specific today is because there is some serious tensions going on internationally that have broken out and that could involve military action. Serious sounding as that is, not even underselling it a bit. So stand by. We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to let you hear from our amazing sponsors that let us bring this wonderful service to you that we call NEA Report. And then we are going to try to go to the White House and find out what's up live. Stand by on NEA Report.
Haley Norris, realtor. Should I make my hair go like this? Whether you need to buy, sell, or lease. Haley, can I use my hands? Or is that, where are my hands? Where do they go? Haley,
Just say, Haley, don't.
Whether you need my expertise. Haley Norris Realtor. Or even do a commercial lease. Haley Norris Realtor. Should I say Remax Real Estate Center or no? Is that too salesy?
No, that's good.
My average days on market is just 50 days. You need my expertise. And that means I'm putting more money back in your pocket.
Brothers Flooring on Highway 67 South in Pocahontas has all your flooring covered. Stop by our showroom Monday through Friday 8 to 5 and see all we have. Carpet with pad and install starting at $16.50 a square yard. Laminate with pad installed starting at just $3.25 a square foot. Every name brand of engineered and solid hardwood from $5 a square foot and up. Waterproof vinyl planks, wood look and tile look, attached cork pack starting at $3.49 a square foot installed. Ceramic and porcelain tile of all sizes and all colors. We build custom tiled showers from the floor up, shelves and benches, tub surrounds, kitchen backsplashes like no other. Brothers Flooring, Highway 67 North in Pocahontas. Call today, 870-892-2525.
We had a website that we had had for a number of years. It had become unwieldy to navigate. Ace One said, give me a little time and I'll come up with something and just see what you think about it. It blew us away. Ace One and his staff have given such close personal attention and outstanding customer service, just as if we were $1 million company. I just can't say enough good things about them.
Back live with you on NEA Report, and it's 1:42. Stan Morris with you. There's a lot of stuff going on today, and we want to tell you about it, especially on the national news side of things. We're standing by and waiting for the White House press briefing to begin because there is the potential right now that we are in the next 48 hours going to hear that a military strike at the bare minimum is going to take place on Syria. What's taken place over the last, over the weekend is that, and let me actually bring up a few tweets here along with our Dow Jones tracker that we like to bring you during some of these press conferences. It's a good day for the Dow, but it was a terrible day on Friday. This tweet from President Trump is notable for several reasons. Let's take a look at it. First of all, he mentioned many dead, including women and children, in a mindless chemical attack in Syria. He says, area of atrocity is in lockdown and encircled by Syrian army, making it completely inaccessible to the outside world. President Putin, Russia, and Iran are responsible for backing Animal Assad, said Donald Trump. He also goes on to say, big price to pay. Open area immediately for medical help and verification. Another humanitarian disaster for no reason whatsoever. Sick. This is significant for several reasons. President Trump, number one, in this tweet, is calling out Vladimir Putin by name. That's not taken place yet, and for a lot of people is a big deal. It is going to be a big deal, although I saw CNN play about 3 hours of clips of him praising him. But it's significant that President Trump has challenged, for once, President Putin on Twitter. What's also significant is today is the first day for John Bolton, the man who is the new National Security Advisor replacing outgoing H.R. McMaster, the National Security Advisor who President Trump reportedly did not particularly like very much. It's significant because General H.R. McMaster was seen as more of a little bit of a reasonable character, and John Bolton is seen as a war hawk. He's actually written an op-ed that called for the attack of Iran and making a legal case for a first strike on North Korea. He has also since said he serves as the president's, whim, and he is not pushing for war, and he's also stated that in most cases, over 99% diplomacy prevails. And so I think it's sometimes oversold a little bit, his willingness to battle, but I also think that he's a differently minded person. than H.R. McMaster. And so sometimes those kind of people, because they're not going to be making the decision, but sometimes they can add a little influence to the man who is, which is President Trump. And so what we're expecting to hear from here in just a short time is from the president, his spokesperson, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's scheduled to speak. Actually, she was scheduled to start 15 minutes ago, but that's okay. And when she begins here in just a short time, it's going to be the first time since the president's tweet that we're going to probably get more answers as to what he intends to do about this, or what the White House is trying to find out before they make a decision. President Trump came out and said in a statement that it would be 24 to 48 hours before we heard a decision that happened. So again, we've got a 48-hour time window. We've got President Trump challenging Vladimir Putin and, of course, calling out the Syrian army, which has enclosed the area where there was a reported gas attack. And there has been video played on the news channels of this. Just horrendous video. Absolutely terrible. I'd like to pull up some of that if I may, and I want to be cautious about what I show on the live stream. But that being said, CNN has showed this stuff all day, and it's terrible. It's confirmed that this stuff happened. There's Russia coming out and saying that it's a hoax. Russia's not to be trusted. We have to remember that is a one political party country, basically. They have state-run media. Their elections are rigged, and not rigged like the Democratic primary rigged. I'm talking about rigged as in they intimidate opposition opponents not to run, if not stuff ballot boxes. There's evidence for all this. Russia has a deliberate effort and attempt underway already to sow discontent and discord in America, especially amongst our citizenry and in our political dialogue. So their effort is going to be to do whatever they can to hurt America in this, right, folks? I mean, we can kind of say that without having to jump very far. And they're saying that this is a hoax. That's what they have actually come out and said, that this is a hoax. It's not a hoax in the sense that it is. If it's a hoax, it's a hoax involving so many independent sources. It's incredulous to believe that is a possibility. Conspiracy theories have to have more evidence than plausible explanations. And here we go with the White House press briefing. Sarah Sanders was keyed out on that previous screen. Let's let her go and talk right now.
With the opioid crisis being a major part of the agenda. In recent weeks, we have continued combating this issue on all fronts, and by making the opioid crisis the primary focus of today's cabinet meeting, the president is once again showing that it is one of his top priorities. There's a long road ahead and much work to be done, but we will not rest until our streets are safe, our families are secure, and the victims of this terrible epidemic are able to live a life free of addiction. As the president noted yesterday and again today during the cabinet meeting, the chemical weapons attack by Syrian regime against innocent civilians is horrifying. The images, especially of suffering children, have shocked the conscience of the entire civilized world. Sadly, these actions are consistent with Assad's established pattern of chemical weapons use. His forces are already responsible for previous chemical weapons attacks and other actions targeting civilians. The president has noted that Russia and Iran also bear responsibility for these acts, since they would not be possible without their material support. It is also now clear that Russia has betrayed its obligations to guarantee the end of the Syrian regime's chemical weapons program. The president and his national security team are consulting closely with allies and partners to determine the appropriate response. As President Trump clearly stated, there will be a price to pay. We call on all members of the international community to share any information related to this attack and to hold the perpetrators and their sponsors accountable. And we call upon the Syrian regime and Russia to open the area to international medical assistance and international monitoring. And with that, I'll take your questions. John.
The president was pretty definitive today in saying that this was an attack with banned chemical weapons. Yet there hasn't been any concrete proof of that. Russia insists that there is no evidence of chemical weapons. What makes the president so sure that he is willing to make such a declarative statement?
The president is confident. He's been briefed by his national security team and being kept up to date constantly and regularly on the intelligence around that. And I can't get any further beyond that at this point.
Do we have any proof at this point that it was in fact a chemical weapon?
Once again, I can't get anything beyond the comments that we've already made, but we're very confident in those comments.
It was just a couple of weeks ago the president was talking about wanting to leave Syria very quickly. Now you're saying that there's a price that has to be paid. Does the president believe that there are some things that are so atrocious, which is the phrase he used this morning, that the United States is in fact the world's policeman, and it demands a response, it demands the presence of the United States government in the region?
Look, the president wants to bring our troops home after we complete the mission to eradicate ISIS in Syria. At the same time, he wants to make sure Assad is deterred from chemical weapons attacks on innocent civilians. Signaling we want to remove our troops in no way degrades our ability to hold parties responsible. Mike?
Has the president been briefed that his comments about wanting to leave Syria could have played a part and have emboldened Assad and played a part in these attacks?
The only individuals that played a part don't reside in this country, and I think we've made very clear who we think is responsible for these attacks, and to try to conflate that and make this on any part and blame on this president is absolutely ridiculous.
He has criticized others for signaling military plans. It seems to be what he was doing here. Does he regret those comments that he made last week?
The president's been clear that he wants to make sure that we have the defeat of ISIS. We've also been clear in our actions, as you have seen after previous chemical attacks, what this president has done, and I think we've been very upfront on that.
Sarah. Hey, thanks, Sarah. First, the news out here this morning about apparent strikes carried out overnight. Does the United States believe that Israel was behind those strikes, as the number of reports claimed? And was the United States given a heads up by the Israeli government?
I can only speak on behalf of this government. For questions on that, I would refer you outside. I can tell you at this time the United States is not conducting airstrikes in Syria, but I can't go beyond that at this point in time.
So from the White House perspective, did the White House get a heads up from any foreign government about conducting strikes in Syria?
Again, I can't go any further than commenting on behalf of our government, and I can tell you that currently at this time the United States is not conducting airstrikes in Syria.
Back on the deterrence for a moment, you said the president wants to ensure that the Assad regime can't conduct attacks like this in the future. Last year when the president launched those cruise missiles, he had said there was a deterrent. Obviously, what has changed between sort of months ago when the Assad regime wasn't using chemical weapons and this strike now? It seemed to be the timing coming so soon after the president making that determination on wanting to pull U.S. troops out of Syria, that there was you can see why we're drawing the timing there. So why, in the president's estimation, did his deterrence, his attempt to sort of establish a deterrent effect on the Assad regime now failing?
Once again, the president has made clear that with the defeat of ISIS, he wanted to be able to bring our troops home. But at the same time, he wants to make sure that Assad is deterred from chemical weapons attacks on innocent civilians. We think you can have separation. John?
Sarah? But sir, didn't the president, by saying that he wants to get out of Syria, essentially give a green light to Assad to do this, as John McCain has suggested, that the United States was leaving, was kind of pulling up and leaving it to...
Look, we're still there, and I think that it is outrageous to say that the President of the United States greenlit something as atrocious as the actions that have taken place over the last several days. The President once again made very clear how he feels about those types of actions when this took place roughly a year ago, and we're going to continue looking at all of our options on the table currently.
Well, John McCain said that emboldened Assad. This was sending a message to Assad. Is that still his position?
I think the message that we sent to Assad was very clear, both in the president's words over the weekend and in our actions that we've taken in the past. Roberta.
Has the president's attitude toward Vladimir Putin changed because of what's happened?
The president has always been tough on Russia, as he said last week, as I echoed again when asked about it. This administration and this president have been tougher on Russia than previous administrations. I think you can see that both through the actions that we've taken and in the comments over the last several days.
But he singled out Vladimir Putin in the tweet yesterday. Does he feel that he can still sort of find some common ground and work with him on various things?
The president still feels that if we can have a good relationship with Russia at some point, that's a good thing for the world. But at the same time, this president is going to be tough on Russia until we see some changes in their behavior, just as we've done every day over the last year, and as we've outlined multiple times before, both from the president and as I've done from this podium on many occasions. John, in the back.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Two questions on the foreign policy front. Given the situation in Syria and your statement today, could the president be in the process of forming an alliance with President Macron in France and Prime Minister May in Britain, not unlike that envisioned by the previous administration with France and Britain when the first reports of chemical weapons came out?
I certainly have great relationship with both countries and are continuing conversations with both the UK as well as France, and hope to work with all of our allies and partners in a response. Sorry, second.
Is Prime Minister Orban, an admirer of the president who has said many kind things about him, won a landslide re-election. Will the president call him, and are there any plans to extend an invitation for a state visit or a working visit to Prime Minister Orban?
I'm not aware of a scheduled call at this time, but if there is one, we'll keep you posted and likely have a readout to follow. John Decker.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Today is the first day on the job for John Bolton as the National Security Advisor. Perhaps you can bring him out here one time and he can take our questions.
I'll be happy to tag him in at some point.
Please do. I wanted to ask you about some comments that he made about Syria back in 2013 on Fox and Friends. He said, "I think if I were a member of Congress, I would vote against an authorization to use force in Syria." He continued, "I don't think it is in America's interests. I don't think we should, in effect, take sides in the Syrian conflict." Is that a point of view that Ambassador Bolton is bringing to the table now as National Security Advisor?
The point of view that matters most here at the White House, as you well know, is the president's. And as Ambassador Bolton himself has said, he's certainly here to serve as an advisor, but ultimately the decisions being made are the president's, and the comments that he's made previously are personal, and he's here to carry out the president's agenda. Josh.
Scott Brewer, the EPA administrator, often flew first class, had a $50 a night rental on Capitol Hill, and tripled the size of his security detail. Can you explain what the president meant when he said rent was about market rate, travel expenses okay, security spending somewhat more, but it was okay? Why did he say that?
He was referencing a report done by the EPA, which we are continuing to review. But in that, it cites that the apartment was at market value and goes into other details, and that was what the president was reflecting.
A night on Capitol Hill with lobbies, that was a market value, according to the EPA?
Yes, according to the Office of Government Ethics.
Travel spending okay. Is the president okay with cabinet secretaries taking first class travel and tripling the size of their security detail? Is that okay?
Again, we are reviewing the specifics of each of those components. I know there was a much larger number of security issues surrounding the EPA administrator than in the past, but for specific questions beyond that, I'd refer you back to the EPA.
Were those security issues, or were those included in police reports? Because there's been reporting that across the country no one found the death threats or police reports that jeopardized his life or safety. What are you talking about?
I can't comment about police reports, but I do know that there have been a number of questions raised. And again, we're continuing to review that. Until that's complete, I'd refer you back to the EPA beyond that.
Sarah, two questions on Syria. With all that's happened with Russia, with the sanctions last week and now these strong words associating Russia with the Syrian attack, is there an expectation or a feeling that diplomatic relations with Russia, with this administration, with our country, with Russia, are eroding?
We've been very tough on Russia for quite some time. I think the only people maybe that didn't understand that or see that were members of the press who continually questioned that. Now I guess people are concerned that we're being tough on Russia. I guess I'm confused on which way you want to have it. The president would like to have a good relationship, but that's going to be determined by the actions that Russia takes, and we're going to continue pushing forward.
And second question, the items on the table. beyond strikes, is there a thought or on the table regime change with Assad? And also, where does diplomacy play in this, even with the strikes and all of this that you're saying is on the table?
I'm not going to get ahead of any potential options that the president may or may not take, but I can tell you that we're reviewing a wide range and a number of different options. Dave?
Thanks, Sarah. At the cabinet meeting this morning, the president was talking about the potential impact of Chinese tariffs on American farmers, and he said the farmers are patriots for being willing to take a hit. And then he said, we'll make it up to them. What did he mean?
The president has worked with his team to determine how best to respond to China's attack on American farmers, and he's asked the Department of Agriculture to protect our farmers, and will present a plan on specifics of that shortly.
Would you consider like extra crop insurance subsidies that are often put in the farm bill for market fluctuations?
I'm not going to get ahead of potential options, but the president has asked the Department of Agriculture to come back with some specifics that we'll announce to you guys shortly.
Thanks, Sarah. I've got two for you. First, on Syria, you talked about the idea of a possible military option being a deterrent. Last year, we heard something very similar from the president, who called that chemical attack last year an affront to humanity, said it cannot be tolerated. Is the White House worried that Assad is now making a mockery of President Trump's threats?
Not at all. What our concern is about is the fact that the Assad regime has taken an outrageous action against innocent civilians. Our focus is on responding to that, and that's what we're looking at.
And then I wanted to follow up on something from last week, just because we didn't get a chance to, and specifically your comments citing the LA Times article when asked, I think by John here, about the president's rape remarks at that event last week. That didn't actually back up the president's claims. You actually, last fall, admonished reporters to make sure that we hold ourselves to a high standard of accuracy. Does the president also need to be held to that same standard of accuracy?
Absolutely, and as I said that day, it has been well documented that a number of those individuals, going back even to 2014, where there were multiple articles and studies put out that said 80% of the women that make that that go through that process and try to enter the country are raped through that process. Something certainly that I think should be concerning to all of us, and certainly something that the president has voiced concern about.
And what about the voter fraud claim that the president made last week as well, also not backed up by evidence?
I'm sorry, can you be more specific?
Yeah, the president talked about those claims of voter fraud again. It's something he's repeatedly brought up. It's just getting to the idea when words matter, particularly in moments of a lot of international pressure, like this moment right now, what his standard of accuracy is when he's speaking to the American public.
The president still strongly feels that there was a large amount of voter fraud and attempted to do a thorough review of it, but a lot of the states didn't want to cooperate and participate. We certainly know that there were a large number of incidences reported, but we can't be sure exactly how much because we weren't able to conduct the full review that the president wanted because a number of states did not want to cooperate and refused to participate. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, two questions regarding Scott Pruitt. How long is the review going to take that the White House is conducting?
I'm not going to lay out an arbitrary timeline, but it's something that we're looking into and continuing to, take under consideration.
Or years?
I mean, obviously we want to get through this process as quickly as we can, but I'm not going to just make up a time frame here today.
Okay, and did Chief of Staff John Kelly recommend that Pruitt be fired?
I'm not going to get into any private conversations. Blake, welcome back.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it. I want to ask you about Mark Zuckerberg headed to the Hill to testify. This administration has often talked about deregulation and the deregulatory efforts that the president and this administration has undergone, but there's a question of whether or not Facebook should be regulated. Does the White House have a stance on whether or not Facebook should be regulated, and if so, what is that position?
I don't have a specific policy announcement on that front, but I think we're all looking forward to that testimony today.
What does the president make of Mark Zuckerberg? Does he have an opinion of him? Larry Kudlow was fairly critical of him, both on Fox News Sunday yesterday and when I asked him about Zuckerberg this morning. Does the president have any sort of opinion on Mark Zuckerberg?
I haven't asked him directly. I'd have to check and get back to you. Take one last question, Jim.
Is there anything that the Syrians can do at this point to prevent military action from being taken?
I'm not going to get ahead of what actions we may or may not take, so I can't really answer that question, but we'll keep you posted when we have something on that front.
And if I can follow up, just because, you've been saying this over the last couple of weeks that nobody has been tougher on Russia and Vladimir Putin than this president. Isn't there some hyperbole in that when you say that? I mean, obviously Ronald Reagan's tear down this wall. John Kennedy put up a blockade around Cuba. Carter boycotted the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow. Obviously, there have been presidents over the course of the last several decades who have been tougher on this president. Also, given the fact that this president, up until just recently, wasn't really willing to criticize Vladimir Putin by name. We all saw that over the weekend and took that as a new development.
Yeah, you cite like one example for each of those individuals. Let me list off just a few of the actions that the president has taken that previous administrations haven't. The Treasury Department issued new sanctions on numerous individuals and entities in Russia. The president's continued other sanctions on Russia's malicious cyber activity in response to election hacking. He's expelled 60 Russian operatives from the United States and closed 2 consulates. The president's issued 4 statements condemning Russia's poisoning of UK citizens on UK soil. He's authorized the sale of lethal aid to Ukraine. He's authorized military strikes against the Assad regime in Syria and has repeatedly called out Russia's actions on that front. We've also exported energy to our allies in Eastern Europe. Look, I think that you named off 1 or 2 things. It is without dispute that this administration and this president has done a number of things to be tough on Russia.
So the president says that Vladimir Putin may pay a price for what's happening in Syria right now. After all, the Russians were supposed to be responsible for helping the Syrians remove the chemical weapons from Syria. When the president says that they may pay a price, we should take that to the bank?
I'm not going to get ahead, once again, of any actions that the United States may or may not take, but I think the president's been clear about what his intention is. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Well, that is the White House press briefing live on NEA Report. We wanted to bring that one to you and let you know some stuff, since a lot of what we've been hearing about today is in relation to Syria. And if we're getting ready to, find ourselves in an international conflict, well, we would like to know about it and be the ones that told you about it first if that's what happens. Any moment now, Ambassador Nikki Haley is set to speak on the Syrian attack at the United Nations. For those of you out there who are not aware, it's alleged right now that Syrian forces gassed their own civilians, yet again, their own members of their country, women, children, were seen dying, foaming at the mouth in just atrocious videos, the kind of stuff that make you have a nightmare for life. And so, what we're kind of watching has been an announcement by the president's staff that over the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to hear an announcement in regard to some sort of response or action that is set to take place. And so we're not sure what that is, but as I mentioned a little bit on Facebook and kind of a discussion with some folks about this, it's possible that we're getting ready to launch more cruise missiles, or there could be an entirely different announcement that comes out of this. There could be more force than even we were expecting. Right now, there is a live stream at the United Nations going on, as I mentioned. I'm going to take that just for a second because I'm wanting to, I was going to end the live stream there, but I didn't realize that we were going to be hearing from the United Nations. And so I would like, I didn't realize they were live in session right now. I would like to hear what Ambassador Nikki Haley says, if we have the opportunity to get that. She's supposed to be speaking any moment right now on at the United Nations. So let's take that video. Okay, there it is. Oh, and of course, as soon as we do it, they're going to take some kind of presentation.
So the outline of this
presentation... I'm not interested in that. No offense to whatever it is that they're covering, because I'm sure it's worthwhile. But, okay, so we're going to keep watch on this situation. If there's information that does develop out of this, we'll let you know. And we'll try to keep you up to date on what happens as far as the news with Syria goes. A handful of stories from Northeast Arkansas that you can check out at the beginning of the broadcast that we're going to end right now. Thanks so very much for joining us on NEA Report. We appreciate all of our wonderful sponsors, including Haley Norris Realtor, Brothers Flooring, Ace One Technologies, New Wave Wireless, Family Medical Clinic of Walnut Ridge and Bono, Triple R Bail Bonds, that's a great company. Kavanaugh GM in Walnut Ridge. Also, got to send a big shout out to Laredo Grocery and Feed. Wonderful company, wonderful people, great store. And again, to all of our sponsors, including Mark Reeslaw, Apache Drive Children's Clinic, and so many others, because I guarantee you I'm going to forget one of them, but they're great and they're wonderful and they make it possible. Pico Foods, thank you so very much, everyone. And thank you to all of you for tuning in to NEA Report, and we hope you have a great night.